Okay, this is going to be a quick overview of what a standard Rocket Reader lesson looks like, how to interact with the lesson, and just generally what the template will look like for each lesson. So this is lesson one. Lesson one will focus on the short vowel A sounds. Within our program, the short vowel A is represented in our system as a red A. Let me get a pointer. So each lesson you can start with a general introduction, ask the students how they're feeling, what's their names until you remember their names, if they have any questions for you, and just try to ensure they have a pencil and a pen to write down. They don't have the books, so they will be learning from the PowerPoint, so it'll be helpful if they can show you that they have a pencil and pen in case they need to write anything down. You can modify this yourself to different questions every lesson if you want. For the first 10 lessons, we will keep on reviewing the alphabet. So we want to make sure that each student knows the alphabet randomly. We want them to make sure they know the letters and the sounds. So you can get students to practice. Okay, for example, you could ask one student to give you the letter names. I like to go down, up, down, up, down, up. You could go across, just mix it up, and try to get to the point where each student can do it in under 35 seconds. I would want them to do it to 30, but 35 is okay. So you can practice the letter names, A, F, M, T, U, N, G, etc. Then you could practice the letter sounds, A, F, M, T, A, N, G, B. So this is a nice warm up and just to get them used to the sounds, used to the letter names. The next part of reviewing for, as I mentioned, the first 10 lessons will be reviewing the blends. So this is just to help students with pronunciation. You can ask them, what is this? They are blocks. Okay, when we have a B and an L, a B, L, it makes a bl sound. So just get them to identify and then get them to repeat after you. The next part is the diagraph review. So this will probably be in every lesson for a long time. So with our program, with our breaking down phonemes, we can break down words, we can represent words. Sorry, we can break down words into phonemes or letters. We can represent them and we can blend them together. However, we can't blend digraphs. So we need to keep on showing students that sh, ng, th, we can't break them down. So a C and a H would be kh. It doesn't make ch. SH is a sh sound. But if we tried to do it phonetically, it'd be sah. So we just need to keep on making sure that students remember these sounds can't be broken down. They're individual sounds. Yep, the next part is visual blending. So this is just practicing the skill that we need students to use to practice using our coding system. So with the visual blending, when we're teaching online, the easiest way to do it is you will go to the annotate function or the draw function. You can get yourself a rectangle, put it any color you desire. We'll go for a nice red. Use the select tool and you can come and move it here. So basically what you want is you want to say the first letter. So you would say, all right, the students say, k. We move it over. Ah, ah. They repeat ah. We put these two sounds together. Ah, t, cat, d, o, dog, g, dog. We continue on. Huh, ah, ha, t, hat. Yep. So we can continue on this path, going through all of these slowly. You can do it as a group or you can do it as you can do it as a group or you can do it individually as students. So you can see the words are getting a bit harder. We've gone from consonant, vowel, consonant. Now we're going to consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant. So we can practice b, br, ah, brat, brat. Yeah, we'll continue on with that. We have the next slide, which goes through some harder ones. So We can have a quick look at these. Now we have consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, b, e, be, n, bend, bend. It continues on until we get to consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, k, u, cl, a, class, clasp, clasp. This is where we see digraphs. So we need to make sure that students understand, they identify digraphs, and then we use the ch, sh, th, ng. We treat it as an individual sound. So b, r, br, a, bra, sh, brash. Yep. When we practice these are all short vowel sounds. So just remember that. I've put information throughout the PowerPoint, just directions and little things to remember. All right, moving on. The next thing we have is what will be in each lesson. Each week, or sorry, every 2 lessons, you will do one sound of our coding chart. So you can see here, this is the basis of how we teach students to read. So we have the individual sounds. We have short vowel A, E, I, O, U, and a short vowel U sound. So basically, we teach kids, okay, what is this? It's a cat. What's the middle sound of cat? Ah. Okay, when you see a red A, it is an ah sound. The next book, we teach them long vowel sounds. It's a gate. What's the middle sound of gate? A. Key, E, bike, I, O, etc. The third book, we teach them diphthongs, which are for girl, or, air for chair, oi for boy, r for star, and ow for cow. We also teach them about soft C's and soft G's. So sometimes a C, like circle, is a sound. Sometimes a G is a J sound. Sometimes a PH is an F sound. And then sometimes sometimes we have a sh sound. An example of this would be Asia, tissue. Yep. We also teach them this in the first book. This is called a schwa sound, so it's kind of a sound. Yep. So at the core of it, we are teaching kids the International Phonetic Alphabet, the 44 sounds of English, through a color-coded system or through a diacritical marking system. Yep. So we'd show this to the kids. We say, okay, this is what we're going to study today. Here's some examples of what the words they'll practice will be like. So if you want to visually blend those now, you can practice. D. There's a red A. Ah. Da. D. Dad. J. Ah. Ja. Jam. Ah. Ra. Ram. Yep. Usually there will only be one sound per 2 lessons. For the first 2 sounds, we also practice the diphthong. We practice the silent letter and the schwa sound. But after that, you will just be on one sound per 2 lessons. The next one we focus on, once again, we say, all right, if you see a black line under a letter or a set of letters, it's a sleepy sound. What's the girl doing? She's sleeping. All right, so if you see a letter, it's sleeping. We don't pronounce it. So here's our examples again. We can practice visually blending. Axe. Axe. An easy way to do it at the start before they're used to that is you put your finger here so you can go axe. Axe. Yep. D. Dr. Drag. Drag. Dragged. Yep. So we'd do that. We then move on to just a little bit of brainstorming. You can ask the students if they know any other short vowel A sounds. You could give them some. What do you wear on your head? You wear a hat. What does the cat sit on? The cat sits on a mat. So you're just trying to put it into their brain, the ah sound. So some students might understand this. Some of you might have to lead them into the question. Sorry, lead them into it. All right, so this part is our training words that we'll go through with the students. The first thing you can do, as it says up here, is just get them to repeat the word after you. So you can put on the pointer tool, Just get them to repeat. All right, everyone say after me, bag, bag, crash, hat. Go slowly through the words, get their students to repeat them for you. Move on to the next set. Oh, all right, there should be two different sets here. I will fix this after. So there's another set, but I must not have copied it properly. All right, then we'll move on to the silent letters. Once again, repeat the silent letters. Apple, crashed, patched, axe, dragged, planned, back, gnat, etc. Bash, jack, smashed, black, lax. Go through them all. The next part is we're going to practice visually blending or decoding the training words. So we'll get the students to do it. I recommend that you decode some of them as a class, maybe the first 2 lines or 3 lines, and then get students individually do it so you know that they can practice the skill. They might not be very good at the start, but over a few weeks, they should pick up the skill. Yeah, so you can use these as examples. And one thing that's always important, just remind them constantly, do you see a digraph? Yes, okay, maybe you can do a little line for the first few lessons just to get them. All right, there is a digraph in crash at the end. Good. All right, let's practice. K, cr, crash, crash. Practice the silent letter. App, ooh, apple, apple. If you don't identify the digraphs, you'll have some issues because it will turn into k, cr, crass, crass, crasser. Yep, so just be very wary. I've put it in the slides. Just always try to get them to identify digraphs, make a game out of it. All right, so you can see here the reminder again, can you see any digraphs? So maybe as a teacher, you can practice as the class, go through the first 3 lines, and then after that, I would recommend that you make each student go to do 1 line at minimum. So if you know their names, oh, I don't want that. If you know their names, you can say, all right, you do line 1, you do line 2, etc. So they go over here. You control the rectangle to help them blend. If there's any word that the student gets wrong, you can maybe address it and review as a class afterwards. So you'd go through this. There's 2 sets of words. This will take quite a bit of time to do, but it's honestly the most important part of the lessons, and it helps develop the skills to decode words if they don't know. So you'd go through all of the sounds. Yep. If you want to add a little element of fun to it, you could play a game, you give the students the annotate or the draw function, and you can say, all right, who can find me lamb? And they have to race. The first one to circle lamb wins. Maybe you could blend it out loud. Lamb. Who can find lamb? So you can add little elements to that to gamify the learning. Once you've gone through all the words, we'll move on to the reading practice. So each lesson will have 3 stories to go through. Story 1 is short, story 2 is a bit longer, story 3 a bit longer after that. So read through the stories and then answer the comprehension questions at the end. If the class is not very strong with their literacy skills, I slowly read the story to them before they take over. At minimum, each student reads 3 sentences from each story. It can be more, it can be less. It often means you have to read a story multiple times, but that's okay. If a student doesn't know a word, get them to slow down, get them to blend the word. Most of the words come from these training words here, so they should be exposed to them already from you practicing blending them as a class. Yep, so here's the story. I would generally get the annotate tool, say, all right, you are reading section 1, you're reading section 2. So just tell them what sections they need to read. There's also some pictures from the story here, so you can ask them some questions. So you'd go through the story, we're reading, good, good, good. The next point, we have the questions. What does Dan have? What does Mac have? Etc. Sometimes students don't know how to do the questions, so you can kind of lead them into the answers. You will also, because the students don't have the books, you might have to go back, ask them the question, what does Mac's cat have? Then you can go back and help them to skim and scan for the answer. Mac's cat has a bat and a fat yam. Wonderful. Then we have story two, a little bit longer, but the same thing. We're reading. Get each student to do 3 sentences or 3 lines minimum. We go through, and once again, we have questions regarding the story. Then we move on to story three, much the same, going through, yes, yes, yes. Answer the questions. So this is the most important part of the lesson. So you're going through, at the end, there is spelling test words. For the spelling test, we'll have to change it a bit for the online class. This is the least important thing. So there's a lot of content to cover in 1 hour. If you don't have time for the spelling test words, that is okay. Lesson two, you will basically do the same thing again, and we will have a spelling test at the end of lesson two. They'll write on a piece of paper or they can message you in the chat. But we will be the first lesson of the week will be introducing the stories and the words. The second lesson will be reviewing, going back over and just making sure that the students are competent with that sound and the stories. All right, that is it for now. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on the Zalo group.